On this episode of Star Trek Universe, we are talking the latest updates on Star Trek Picard's numbers, how the writer's strike could affect Star Trek, and of course, getting to more of your Picard feedback right after these words from our mystery sponsors. Welcome to Star Trek Universe, the podcast where you can listen in on two lifelong friends just chatting about Star Trek. My name's Matthew Carroll. I am David C. Robertson.
David Carlos Robertson.
Robertson?
I said Robertson.
It sounded like you said Robertson.
I might have just stumbled my word, but I know your name.
We've been friends for like 33 years.
Yes, indeed. How's your week been?
My week has been good. I have been organizing some things. I should bring it up, actually. It's very Star Trek related. I have been collecting Star Trek novels since I was like 8 years old. Mm-hmm. During some droughts, you and I our whole Star Trek friendship has been based around some of these novels.
For sure.
But, great guy, Zoidberg1977 over on Twitter, one of my mutuals. I saw him post that he was decluttering, and I asked, and he had like a ton of Star Trek books. And I was like, hey man, how much? And he just kind of went, you know what? You're really close to me. Come get them, and they're yours. So, it's hundreds.
Wow.
Hundreds. And I already have hundreds.
Yeah, I saw pictures of him on Twitter or something.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Thanks for the kindness, Zoidberg.
Yeah, man. When we had a great conversation, too, a lot of geeking out about Star Trek and DC and all sorts of stuff. I got sunburned standing outside of an Ollie's in Tennessee talking to Johnny about geek stuff, but really solid guy, solid human being. Give him a shout. Zoidberg1977 on Twitter. Fantastic follow, if I do says so myself, and I does. And by the way, my youngest sister, who loves Star Trek and has always wanted to collect the books, she's going to be getting whatever I don't need, which is about 300 books.
Wow. So there's 300 doubles.
Yeah.
Wow. That's wild, man.
Yeah.
I know you've been collecting a long time, so it makes sense.
I have. I filled in some integral gaps in my collection, and I'm like,
that's awesome.
Guess what, Britt? She was excited at first, and now she's like super stressed. She's like, I don't know where I'm going to put them. But they must be displayed.
Also, find the time to read them too. It's like, yeah, it's tough.
Oh, we're not considering that.
I'm gonna read them. Oh man,
I've read a ton of them, but like, right. I'm not stressing myself. Like, if I leave this mortal coil without reading a few, Jean DeWeese novels, I'll be all right. Like, it'll be all right.
Yeah, but over time, I know you'll just randomly pick them up and read them here and there. I know.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I'm really excited because I've got like a ton of like the DS9 and TNG relaunch stuff now. Mm-hmm. The avatars and whatnot, and I really would like to, because I know they did this thing where they like did all the relaunch novels, and then basically when they realized, oh, new Star Trek's going to be hitting some of this stuff and it's not going to line up, you know what? Why don't you guys just finish it? So like they did this massive like Coda trilogy where they tied it up in this like big universe ending reset thing.
That.
And
super cool.
That's exciting. I want to read all of that. So
yeah. That's awesome, man.
Well,
so you got some news? You said some Picard numbers or something?
I knew I forgot to do something. No. So excitingly, Star Trek Picard has now appeared for the third time on Nielsen's streaming charts. The finale did really good numbers. And keep in mind, again, Star Trek Picard was the first Star Trek series of the new era. The show up on the streaming chart. This is the first. I think it was the first thing Paramount Plus ever had on the streaming chart. So it's a really big deal that this has happened now a third time.
Wow. Not even one of them Yellowstone spinoffs?
Mm-mm. Well, I think the 1883 was over at Netflix, so.
Oh, they're all on Paramount Plus, though, I thought.
They weren't at first.
Oh, maybe it just showed up there.
Yellowstone, I think, was, and then 1883 was on Netflix.
I don't think Yellowstone is, because my mom really wanted to watch Yellowstone, and I went to look for it, and it's not. It's on some other app, or you have to have, it's one of those they want to try to keep people watching the actual channel or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know. I couldn't find it, or maybe it's on some other streaming service. And then, but yeah, 1823 and 1903 or whatever are on
1929 there. Or whatever it is.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm probably wrong about that, but. Yeah, so and the Star Trek Legacy petition is now at 52,101 signatures as of this recording.
That's awesome.
So that is huge as well. I'll once again post a link in the show notes if any of our beloved listeners want to go sign that petition because damn it, have your voice heard.
Mm-hmm.
Strange New Worlds only got what, like 29,000 signatures before they were like, okay, yes, we'll make it.
Right. Yeah. And this just seems like they're setting it up to do it. So I hope it happens.
Yeah. In SFX magazine, they were talking to Akiva Goldsman, the co-showrunner of Strange New Worlds. He talked a little bit about Kirk. He says what we're dealing with in season 2 is Lieutenant Kirk, First Officer Kirk. We're not dealing with Captain Kirk, and there's opportunity there. Paul Wesley is really this wonderful, to me, hybrid of Shatner's Kirk and his own. That is, of course, serviced by this moment in the Kirk timeline where he's dating Carol Marcus. That's
neat.
Interesting. See, I always in my head canon, Carol Marcus was the blonde they mentioned in Where No Man Has Gone Before. Where he was a really tough instructor, and they called him a book with legs. And basically, Gary Mitchell decided to admits to Kirk that he set him up with that little blonde scientist or something, and he was like, "I almost married her. That was you." But headcanon, whatever. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with it being messed with. See, he said that they were going to do more of what they did last year, but more. There's apparently, I think we've talked about this before, but in the crossover episode with Lower Decks, he says that there are going to be full-on animated pieces.
Nice. No, I didn't. I don't think we. At least I never heard that before.
Yeah. Okay.
Because we've speculated about it a bit, but yeah, that's awesome.
And he says they worked closely with the Lower Decks showrunner Mike McMahon to help, quote, find the tone. That was a good mix of both shows. He did say here's some interesting stuff he said though. Star Trek allows you to be in space adventures or at home adventures or on planet adventures. And then amongst them, there can be dramas and westerns and comedies. So Star Trek has wide arms when it comes to the kind of entertainment it can accommodate, as long as it's Star Trek. I think that is what we will always be discovering. How much does it bend before it breaks? Weirdly, that's our job, to keep trying to put it out there, bend it a little bit and not break it.
Yeah.
Now, here's some controversial stuff. Part of what's interesting is we're interpolating history. I don't know how to say that word.
Interpolating, you're right.
There are pieces that are dark that we're filling in. Having said that, we will body check canon when we need to, and we have. We've moved some folks around in terms of timelines. We put some folks together who aren't necessarily canonically together at the same time. We pull some things forward because ultimately story wins. But trying to stay within canon is an awfully fun exercise and leads to solutions that you might not come up with if you didn't have those boundaries. I don't like body checking canon.
Yeah, that is a tricky thing. Yeah, I don't like that either.
I mean, look, hey, I'll say multiverse, whatever. I'm okay. I'm over here reading novels that don't have anything to do with anything.
Yeah, it's just that thing of like you're watching the show and they say it's going to line up, so you sit there and watch, like waiting for them to line certain things up. Like, oh, when is this going to finally line up? And then it just doesn't. Or like it's just nice to know what you're watching. You know what I mean? So like, I'd rather them say we're not, this isn't canonically together or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I've spoken ad nauseum about this. It's a bugaboo. It sticks in my craw a bit, but I really do try to just enjoy the thing.
We have talked about it plenty. It's definitely a thing we've talked about ad nauseum, as you say.
Did you see the little slip up that Crave did? The Canadian station put out like some promos and then quickly took them down of season 2, and it had.
Yeah, that one shot of
the lower decks. Yeah. Mariner and Boimler in live action. I was so excited. I just saw that one little bit. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, it looks awesome. I just love seeing them together. It's
Petite Huey.
Yeah, I'm interested to see because he definitely acts differently and his voice is a little different and stuff on lower decks. And I'm interested to see how that manifests when he's like doing that in person and we see him doing it. Like, will I be able to like, I don't know. Well, it's going to feel weird.
Dude, my hand to God, I need the Boimler scream in live action.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, me too.
Shazad Latif, who played Ash Tyler on, that was his name, on Discovery, says he hasn't heard anything yet about the movie. He says it's down to timelines and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to work with Michelle again. She's a legend in the game, so I love her. I'll always love her. We used to go out for lots of great dinners, so hopefully I'll go out to dinner with her again. Just giving you an update on Section 31, whether or not Ash Tyler, who has been put in charge of Section 31 the last time we saw him, will show up.
Huh. Yeah, I'd forgotten that he ended in charge of it. That's cool. I remember he took off to do it.
Yeah, I made a note to put that in because the last episode or so, somewhere in there, we were like, what happened to Ash at the end of that?
Yeah. I remembered it was Section 31, but I don't remember what else or whatever.
Yeah. So, Trek Movie put out a great article about how the writer's strike could impact Star Trek. I've seen a lot of people asking questions. I actually answered the question in the Stranded Panda chat for someone, and I basically just copied and pasted it here because I was able to pull it down to a nice little chunk. Writers aren't getting paid residuals for streaming services like they did for reruns, something they had to strike for way back in the day. They also want to stop the relatively new practice of mini rooms, where a group of writers will get less pay, less hours, and substantially less experience. Not being able to be on the set and learn how to become showrunners themselves.
Yeah.
And there's also concern regarding the use of AI being used to write scripts instead of actual humans.
Yeah.
And, I see so much vitriol on social media about these writers are rich, they get paid enough. That's just not true most of the time. Like this guy, I don't know if you've read about this, Alex O'Keefe, who wrote the 9 episodes of that hit show Bear and won a WGA award. He went to the awards in a borrowed suit and a tie he bought on credit, had a negative balance in his bank account, and was actively applying at movie theaters, and had gotten an application denied at Target. Damn. That is not an affluent person. So
yeah,
I totally stand with the writers' strike. They need to get paid. They're not getting paid for minutes viewed. They're not getting paid for watches on streaming. So anyway, the WGA contract only applies though to live action and feature films. So there shouldn't be an impact on the animated Star Trek shows.
Huh. Interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that falls under the Animation Guild. So, and they're current. They're fine. So we shouldn't have to deal with that. And writing for season 2 of Prodigy was completed in 2022. And the 5th season of Lower Decks writing still appears to be underway, but like I said, it's not affected.
Cool.
But for all this other stuff, Legacy, no development can happen unless the writer's strike comes to an end.
Yeah. Everything's on hold, man.
And because of everything with the writer's strike, we're also looking at SAG-AFTRA that's coming up. Their contracts are coming up. Like, it's going to be messy for a minute. And we might not get new live action anything for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Because greedy corporations don't want to pay the creatives.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, I definitely stand with the writers. There's obviously, like, there's going to have to be compromise on all sides from time to time. But, like, you know, so I understand that there's two sides to the issue. But, like, yeah, you just got to pay them what they're worth, man. When you're making record profits and you're not paying your people, it's not the thing to do.
Yeah. You don't want your writers on the corner with an eye patch and a tin cup.
Yeah. I mean, there's some things like the AI. I said this in Multiverse News when we were talking about it too. Like the AI thing, I'm like, I definitely, obviously, there's some need for discussion about how they're going to use AI for sure. And maybe it at least needs to be, I don't know, transparent or something. The part of me hears them complaining about that part of the thing and just being like, well, I just don't know that there's like stopping the progress of time. You know what I mean? Like there's going to be it's going to be a tool that is going to be used in the future.
Sorry, monks, the printing press has been invented.
That's exactly. I literally, I said something to that effect. Well, I was talking about the Luddites. You know, the loom has been invented. Like it's gonna. Yeah, there's that. That's the thing. And I think that as long as we want good stories, there's always going to be a need for human writers because otherwise stories will never expand. Stories will never grow. So I'm all about like making some sort of checks on the AI stuff because if AI is just copying what's been done before, then you're just going to you're never going to have new things being written about the human experience.
The scary thing about AI though is that it's not really copying, it's learning too. So it's basically like anyone who grows up watching TV or reading and learning how to do that. And then being inspired by a writer you like.
Right.
You know?
The problem is, though, you can't... They don't know how yet. I mean, like, one day, sure. But they don't know how to do a new thing about the human experience. They are not humans. So, like, you can't... They can't, like, they can reinterpret the same old stories, and we have lots of stories, so they can do that, but, like, they'll never be able to write a thing that's truly about the human experience that we don't feed it, you know?
So right now, AI could write a CWDC show.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
Insert exposition for 20 minutes.
I'm sure it has. I'm sure there's people who've fed in, like, a bunch of scripts and said, hey, write me a Flash episode and just seeing what happens. They've been doing that for years of like, you know, write me a chapter of Harry Potter or whatever. And it'll just be, they were really funny for a long time because they'd just be like, sort of, right? Like I remember one that was like, write a Harry Potter chapter and it was just like really funny. It was like, I don't know, just like the weirdnesses of what's going on. Like, I don't know. It does it just a little wrong. It's very funny, but like,
but also so right.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, I see what they're going for there. He's trying to say that a spell is happening, but it can't exactly understand what a spell is. So it's like saying something weird that Dumbledore's doing, and it just like, it's weird. It's weird. It's weird and fun. But as they get better, man, it's crazy.
Yeah,
AI is taking huge leaps. Oh yeah, I mean, and yeah, the image world, like it's crazy what they can do now.
Yeah,
just like, yeah. You just tell it what to paint you, and it paints it. It's crazy in 3 seconds or whatever.
Yeah,
it's wild.
Yeah. Anyway, so we got feedback.
Yeah. Let's finally get bawe didn't really get to do an episode last week, so I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, man. And now, if I have said some of these before, I apologize. I don't think I have.
It's been 2 weeks, man. There's no way I remember.
I know. So, and also if I miss something, I'm sorry for that too. Just, ding me and be like, hey man, You didn't read my shit, and we'll get you. We'll get you on the next one. But Rachel Elizabeth, over on Twitter, Raylee514 says, just listen to the latest podcast. You guys should definitely watch 12 Monkeys. It is a fantastic show. Highly recommend. There are a lot of little Easter eggs in season 3 of Picard. Been thinking of doing a rewatch. You really like the movie.
I love the movie. And I watched the first few episodes of the show, too, just because I like the movie so much. But yeah, for whatever reason, I fell off. It's not that it was bad. I just fell off, you know?
Yeah. You just got distracted. Saw something shiny in the distance.
Exactly. Something to that effect.
I really want to watch 12 Monkeys. I wasn't a huge fan of the movie, but I want to watch that again, too. I don't know if the show is in canon with the movie or what.
From what I understand, it's not, because I believe they use time travel completely differently in the show.
Okay.
The big spoiler alert for 12 Monkeys. Spoiler alert. The big reveal of 12 Monkeys, as far as I understand, is that you can't change the past, you know?
Right.
It's like they say at the very beginning, and then he tries his best, but then he still can't. That's the whole. It's beautiful, but it only works for one episode. You know what I mean? Like you can't do that same thing again with a sequel, and that's what makes that movie interesting. But as far as I understand it, with 12 Monkeys, the show, you can change the past, and it's like about like kind of that time travel, timey-wimey, things changing and going backwards and forwards and all that good stuff. It's from what I've heard. I haven't actually watched it except for the first episode or two.
But, you know, just by virtue of not liking the first one, but having watched it when I was pretty young, I would like to go back and watch it and just be like, let me give it another shot.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. Because young Dave was not as dope as I am now. So.
So true. So true.
Young Dave had a bit of a stick up his ass about film. Now I have no standard.
Lost standards completely. I feel like maybe you went too far in one direction, buddy.
You know. No, I still have standards, buddy.
Yeah, no, I know.
I allow myself to enjoy things more now.
Yeah, for sure.
Nerdy-tastic over on Twitter says,
Nerdy-tastic.
The finale was perfect. This whole season was what I had always wanted from the previous seasons, and I thought they nailed the landing. I would gladly watch a spin-off show. I wish Dave's prediction that 1701D be renamed Legacy had happened.
That would have been awesome.
In a way, yes. I agree. But then in another way, I'm like, no, you don't want to change the name of the Enterprise D. It's the Enterprise D. Leave it the Enterprise D, you know?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. And I'm pretty happy with the idea that 7 of 9 is the captain of the Enterprise now, so.
Yeah.
Damn it, I think Terry Matalas did it better than me. You know what? I rarely will say a showrunner had an idea better than I had.
Yeah, we do that a lot on the cast where we're like, we shot ourselves in the foot by predicting too many things that we wish had happened. But this season, I really feel like a lot of things happened on the show that I wasn't expecting, and I really liked it.
Yeah, and the more I think about this season, the more I think like it made the previous 2 seasons better.
Yeah. Like
it makes that ending of season 1 so much better in a way. Like, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll just take it and rub it all over my face like a cat with nip, you know?
Mm-hmm. Or a mat with nip. But a different kind.
Mat nip?
I mean nipple.
Yeah. I didn't know if you were going for mat nip or if you were going for nipples.
Right. Yeah, I was just saying. I was going for nipples.
That reminds me, I was at Walmart the other day and I heard this lady, she was walking by me with her phone, and I don't know what exactly she was talking about, but she said, ask her what she got to say. Ask Areola what she's got to say about that.
That's great.
I wanted so badly to stop her and be like, there's a person named Areola?
That's awesome.
But she was busy. She was yelling, man.
Yeah.
I didn't want to.
You didn't get involved in that.
I don't want to slow her stride, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Plus, I'm pretty sure my imagination come up with something better than just like, oh, yeah, we didn't know.
Yeah, man. Terry Matalas didn't write that phone call.
We didn't know what an areola was. We just thought it sounded, exotic. Mm-hmm. So we named our daughter Areola.
Yep.
Matthew Davis comes to us, says, Matt and Dave, that was the ending for the Next Generation crew that we didn't realize we needed. Bullshit. I realized it the entire time since Nemesis. When Picard stopped as he was leaving the bridge for the Borg cube, I got chills. Were we going to see the death of one or two of the crew? I hoped not. But Picard was ready to lay down his life for a son he just learned about, and Riker and Worf were ready to lay down their lives for their captain and friend of more than 3 decades. In a way, it wasn't the Borg who were the big bad, but more so the Borg Queen. Her goal wasn't just assimilation of Earth into the collective, but just pure individual revenge. Swords are fun? Yes, they are. And no doubt there will be plenty of cosplayers making their replicas of his sword. It's a Kurleth. Data flying into the Borg cube was priceless. I didn't realize that his new programming including Star Wars mode. And it's amazing that Deanna was able to sense all of our emotions.
How much would it have broken the internet and everything else if, like, as Data was, like, flying into the thing, suddenly you just hear, like, the voice of Obi-Wan, use the Force, Data. Like, what's going on? It would be, like, the worst decision a corporation's ever made if they just,
No, they should have had Ewan McGregor come in and do that. Use the Force, Data. And then everyone on the bridge should have reacted and said, what was that? And Data's like, I watched a movie.
Yeah. Oh, no.
I would have loved that. I would have loved that.
He can do other people's voices. It would be pretty good.
He can.
Yeah.
Yes, that was Walter Koenig's voice as the president of Earth. We don't usually hear much from him like we do with George Takei and William Shatner, so it was cool for him to play a small role. Now, was Anton supposed to be Chekhov's son or grandson? The reference to his father implies that Pavel was his father, but timeline-wise, grandson might be more realistic. Mm-hmm. No, he was his son. McCoy was 137 years old when Data met him in Encounter at Farpoint. Chekhov was younger than McCoy, but not that much younger. Then again, maybe he had a child really late in life. Just Google John Tyler grandson. Things are still open for much of our crew. I want to see more of Worf as he continues working on himself. Let's see Data explore and enjoy his humanity. And the really big unanswered question, who was watching Kestra Riker while her parents were busy? Well, I think we talked about this. I think Kestra would have been old enough to just kind of watch after herself, wouldn't she?
Yeah, probably, but I don't know about leaving her on a planet by herself.
I mean, she was like...
It's one thing to, like, be like, yeah, stay home, call, you still got, like, 911 to call or whatever. Weren't they, like, on Nepenthe, like, by themselves or something?
Yes, but, like, she was, 12 or 13 in Picard Season 1, so she would be, like, 16-ish, 17, and then by that age, people are going to Starfleet Academy.
Yeah, for sure. She definitely could be anywhere, but, like, and she could be with family, she could be with friends, whatever. But it does seem weird. I don't know. Staying on a planet all by yourself seems like a bad idea, just most of the time.
I bet you, if they do Star Trek Legacy, we'll find out where Kestra is.
I bet we will.
Matthew Davis sends us another one. So, before the Picard season finale, I decided to rewatch Encounter at Farpoint for the first time since, maybe since that first season originally aired? Anyway, there were a few things about it that I didn't realize or had forgotten. O'Brien was there at the start! Well, at least the actor was. Calamini was in the premiere, credited as the Battle Bridge pilot. I don't know if this appearance has been retconned as O'Brien, but it should be. At least my headcanon says it's him. Of course it is. It's gotta be. Roddenberry's influence is extremely apparent. It definitely had the feel of the original series. Remember the miniskirt uniform? Deanna wore it throughout the episode. Tasha wore it in the very last scene, maybe the only scene where she did. You have to admit it's not very practical for the head of security. In fact, some of the male crew members in the background wore the miniskirt outfit. I seem to remember reading about that back then. None of the main male characters wore it, just generic background crew that were almost a blink and you'll miss it appearance. Really progressive for 1987. You could tell how Picard's character evolved. He admits in the opening narration, and when talking to Riker, that he's not a family man and is not comfortable around children. Soon after, we have his first contact with the Crushers. Beverly goes to the bridge to report to Picard, with Wesley accompanying her on the turbolift. He stays on the turbolift, so he technically doesn't break Picard's no children on the bridge rule, but does surprise the captain when the door opens and he sees the teenager standing there alone. Beverly steps into view and Picard realizes this is the son of his late friend. His demeanor softens and he invites Wesley onto the bridge to look around, but don't touch anything. Picard's change in attitude was sudden, but still subtle and natural. It was a great scene, well shot and well acted. Looking back, it's easy to see the acting skills that Patrick Stewart brought to the role. Worf almost seemed like he was there as the token Klingon, but I remember thinking the character could lead to some interesting storylines. McCoy's brief appearance. I'm not surprised that he was stubborn enough to live to the age of 137. Considering the comparisons of Data to Spock, the walk and talk between McCoy and Data might seem a little too obvious, but still a really nice passing of the torch. Quote, treat her like a lady and she'll always bring you home. The legacy of and sentiment for the Enterprise is a long one. Thank you, Matthew.
Mm-hmm.
Encounter at Farpoint is kind of an awful episode, but has like these really great like standout moments that like will absolutely make me cry. McCoy and Data in the corridor is one of those.
Oh yeah, for sure.
One of those scenes. And then there's like scenes where it's like Picard is telling Riker, go do a manual redocking of the secondary hull with the saucer section.
Right.
And I'm like, why?
Mm-hmm.
Just to show that y'all could do that.
Yeah, he's putting his new first officer through the paces or whatever.
Yeah.
Because that's their first meeting, and he's like immediately like, yeah, go do this hard thing. Show me you got chops. And it's like, all right.
Yeah. Even like Riker's like, why? And he's like, you're qualified, aren't you?
Well, he didn't even say why. I think he just pauses and he's like, you're qualified. I say, yes, sir. And he just goes to do it. And it's still them. Like, I think part of it is, obviously that they're establishing their relationship and they're not friends at all. He's just the new guy that he's like assigned to. And he's just like, I hope this kid can handle his work. But it's also just the show is finding its tone. Like, it's still that whole first season is, full of episodes that feel like they don't know what they're doing yet,
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to like find a mixture of what that old tone was and then like what is sci-fi in the 90s, like or 80s. They're trying to like figure out what is television sci-fi at that moment, what's going to work. I
went back and watched Encounter at Farpoint after we finished Picard, just because I like doing that kind of crap. Like, let's see the characters right when they meet. And just like Riker and Picard's relationship is so stiff, is so rigid. And just like, it made me laugh sitting there, like watching it, thinking about like, in Picard, Riker basically being like, Jean-Luc, girl, that's your boy. Like, they're so informal.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. It's so cool to see that relationship really develop slowly over 40 years, Yeah. It's really cool.
I love it. Gerald Edwards II sends us an email, says, hi, Matt and Dave. I've been listening to the podcast for a while, and I wanted to say I've enjoyed it. Those sex jokes that Dave tells make me cringe a little. LOL.
Yes. Me too. That's why he does it.
How you doing? Gerald continues, I'm about the same age as you guys, and seeing the cast of TNG come back for the final season takes me back to being a kid, watching some of the episodes with my Trekkie older brother. It was nice to hear Walter Koenig's voice again in Star Trek. I wasn't sure it was him for a second, but I appreciated the cameo and Terry and crew showing respect to the late Anton Yelchin. It's always fun seeing Riker and Worf team up to do some damage on away missions. I know people are a little taken back by cursing in the season, but I don't mind it. I laughed at Riker yelling shit when he was trying to pick up Worf's sword.
Really great.
That was great. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was wild seeing that fat-ass Galaxy-class ship maneuvering through that colossal Borg cube. Mm-hmm. But if anyone can do it, it's Data. Seeing Beverly laying waste to the Borg turrets, Geordi having to make the tough decisions at the helm of the Enterprise, and Troy using her empathic connection to rescue Riker was entertaining. I'm not going to lie, when Picard told Jack that he'll stay and hugged him, I had a bit of feels. I felt that hug. It's the type of hug I get from my dad.
Oh, that's great.
I wouldn't mind seeing them return again in one last movie on Paramount Plus, but if this is the end of their arc as a team, it's a fine way to leave it. Take care, fellas. Man, I don't think I ever want to see them together again. I think that was perfect. Like,
I think if from now on all we saw was like one or two of them together at times, right, that would be fine, and that would be a really nice way to, because it, any closure of them as a team is not going to be a good. The thing I like about none of them dying is anytime bringing closure to this story with them as a team is not going to give any of their individual stories the weight it needs. Like, I'd love to see Picard have one last. I mean, except for Picard, but in this case, because this was his show and it's all about his son and his family and all this stuff. Like, they could have ended Picard's story here, and I think I would have felt it okay about it. But if you'd ended anyone else's story here, it would have felt like they were just like, Picard's henchmen. But all of these characters, I would love to see a movie about that closed off. I'd love to see a Riker movie. I'd love to see a LaForge movie. I'd love to see any of them, and I'd love to see all of them show up back and forth. But this is I think the end of the team. They got one last ride on the D, and that's what's important.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing Riker show up and then be like, oh yeah, we got a Caligula orgy with Picard, or something. Sorry, I had to throw that in because he said he was.
You're trying to make him cringe. I get it.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much, Gerald, for writing in.
Yeah, thanks.
And Gerald. Man, I seen you on Twitter and stuff. You should write in more. I've been knowing Gerald for a long time.
Nice.
So, you know what you got to do, man. Stu Little sends us one called Deadbeat Data.
Deadbeat Data.
Yeah. Hello. All caps. You'll never convince me that beam phasers aren't worth having in universe, Dave. I'm not dying on that hill. I don't give a shit. What? I do think that the Star Wars pew pew lasers make more sense for faster paced editing and action sequences. They just do. I think everybody on New Trek agrees with me. That said, whatever. They bring it back. Okay. He says sometimes you just want to see people shoot a continuous stream of plasma at a force field ineffectively.
It's only natural, Dave.
Or it be used on low setting to heat up some metal. Pew-pewing, it just isn't the same. Well, Stu, I would also bring up sometimes you want to see them use it on the low setting to heat up a rock. While they're freezing outside, let's not forget the enemy within. Stu continues, President Chekhov's warning message should specifically have told all vessels to avoid the planet. Missed opportunity! I think it's nice that Chekhov's son doesn't have the same speech impediment. Stu says, I have to say this whole crisis is a better burn than the actual burn was. So much of the fleet being taken over like that and turned against the Alpha Quadrant could be something that destroys faith in Starfleet and the Federation so much that you could see lots of worlds leaving.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it is just so ill advised, like them all gathering together. And I wonder how much damage the fleet was able to do in the time that they were all assimilated.
Yeah.
Because clearly they would have gone to, I guess they all mostly focused on Earth and they were trying to get to its defenses. So that's mostly what happened. I guess they didn't but I don't know. You could see a story where pockets of, the ships went off in different directions to do different tasks for the Borg or whatever.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. That'd be a cool little precursor to a short story or something.
Yeah. If there's just a bunch of, I don't know, Borg that are like still out there, absolutely could be an episode in Legacy or something where they like find these three vessels never came back, and they find out they got their orders and then left too far for like Jack to shut them down or whatever, and they're off doing Borg things somewhere.
Yeah, and then they died immediately when the Queen did. Anyway, quote, "Ma'am, I'm just the cook. Someone clearly hasn't seen Under Siege."
I thought about that.
I don't get it. I've never seen Under Siege.
There was Under Siege. Steven Seagal's character was like the cook on the ship, and it's like a submarine movie where there's like a bunch of terrorists take over the submarine, and he's the cook, but he has a particular set of skills, and he like goes around the ship taking the ship back from the terrorists. But he's just the cook. And so in this episode where the guy's like, "Man, I can't fly the ship. I'm just a cook." It's like,
gotcha.
Cooks can do a lot of things. Just talk to Steven Seagal.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I can't do Steven Seagal. Anything that has his name on it, I'm like, nope.
I love hearing Bert Kreischer talk about him though. You heard his stand-up talking about Steven Seagal? I don't know. He's just really funny.
Maybe.
Yeah. He just has like, just talks about the craziness of Steven Seagal. You can find it. It's easy to find. Bert Kreischer, Steven Seagal.
Have you seen his trailer for that movie he's doing? That's like based on his...
I messed up. It's not Bert Kreischer that I'm thinking of. It's Tom Segura that I'm thinking of. They do that podcast together, and I flip their names sometimes. But yes, I have seen The Machine, movie of The Machine coming out in like a few weeks. I'm really excited about it, actually.
That looks dope.
Yeah. Have you heard The Machine story?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, yeah. It was really...
Absolutely.
That's what like made him famous, was that went viral online, and now he's just, well-known. There's some really interesting interviews I've listened to with comedians talking about him and how that aspect of his personality, like the wild party guy, used to be a part of his show, like a part of his that he talked about, but that wasn't him. But now that he like became famous for that, like all of his fans expect that from him. So like he lives a life of people like pushing him to be a party animal, and so he's kind of slowly become a party animal over the years.
That's really funny.
It's good stuff.
Quote, I have experience with the Borg. Yeah, Data, but I don't think fucking the Queen is really an option this time. Do you?
He's like, we could try it.
Stu says you can dress it up as emotionally as you like, but Picard insisting he goes on alone is just a fancy instance of the Worf gets denied trope. It's true.
So true.
So the mysterious person Vadic was talking to that could be described as vaguely Cardassian looking was just the Borg Queen after all? Okay. I also had a long shot that it was going to turn out to be Wesley Crusher turned into a mad cosmic super being pissed off about Jack's existence and not growing up to look like he did in that episode where Will got Q powers and aged him up.
Yeah. I like it. I like that theory. That did not pan out, but I like it.
Yeah.
It still feels... I mean, I gotta go back and rewatch, but the Borg Queen doesn't feel like what was communicating through that communicator still. I still don't see it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I see it, but whatever, man.
I just go back and watch it with that context.
Yeah. Seven really did make an inspiring speech, but did anyone else notice her main crux was fighting for what is below on Earth while talking to a crew that included multiple non-humans?
Well, it's still the Earth. It's still like the flagship planet of the Federation or whatever, which is a thing. But it's still like where all of them, probably a lot of them, lived there and went to Starfleet Academy there and stuff like that. Yeah,
sure. That's where Starfleet Academy is.
And even if it had been any planet, just fight. How hard did the Enterprise D fight for Viridian 4 or whatever?
Right.
Like,
right. Viridian 3?
No, Viridian 3 was where they were. Viridian 4 was the planet that would be destroyed.
You're right, yeah. Good job.
Thanks. I think we had this exact discussion like 2 years ago on the podcast, and it's like the only Star Trek fun fact that I remember that you don't.
Yeah, I always remember it as like the people in Viridian 3.
Yeah, but I think Viridian 3 is where they were. Viridian 5. I could be getting it wrong too. It could be Viridian 5. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like no, Dave. Viridian 3 is just a planet of Vasquez rocks. That's all it is.
That's all it is.
It's the worst part of the Genesis planet. See, don't you think it would have been more dramatic if Picard had been shooting a beam at the Queen's face and she was just laughing it off? No. No.
Stu, you're not helping your case here.
A long, lingering beam. No.
Give you a long, lingering beam.
He knows what he's doing. Son of a bitch. Will struggling to lift the batleth means that canonically Alexander, a child who's part human, is physically stronger than him. No. As I mentioned, it's a Kurtleth, which is different than the batleth.
Yeah, so maybe we've seen a lot of characters, Jadzia, use a batleth. It's Kurleths are like forged in a dying star or something.
Yeah. Also, batleths can be different weights as long as they're balanced. And I would assume
they're like bowling balls.
If you're replicating,
they have like a big number on the side within a little circle. You go to the batleth training place, and they have little batleth returns.
Right, but I would assume if you're replicating these things, you can say about this weight, approximately this weight, and it'll make that for you. Like, so he could have like a.
Approximately.
Yeah.
Who's approximating? Get it down to the micron.
Replicator. They probably do. Yeah. Stu says, "What? No target lock Glasgow? Not even target lock Edinburgh? Well, fuck you then." It's not a major city, man. I don't know what to tell you. Just because they shot Batman there doesn't mean.
I mean, it is sort of insulting to say, like, not only is it not a big enough city now, but like 600 years in the future, you still won't get enough respect. Right. So that's insulting for sure.
The Borg were just like, you know what? It's just a bunch of drunks. What?
I don't know. You're just using your stereotypes over there.
Hey, you know what though? I can do that because my sister did all the DNA shit on us, and I'm mostly Scottish.
Well, you are, or she is.
Our family. We pretty much mostly came from.
Yeah, but
from yeah.
You're adopted.
I'm not. I'm not. They didn't want me.
I wasn't a choice.
Hey, you remember how I found that out at my birthday party when my parents decided to stay up with you and Ryan and play cards, and they told you I wasn't planned or wanted?
No, it wasn't traumatic to me, so I have no recollection of that.
I was like, well, that was nice.
Thanks for staying up with my friends and telling them I was a mistake.
I was like, it's my birthday party. I don't like playing cards. They're like, let's take Dave's friends and play cards with them all night and tell them how we didn't want them.
That's pretty traumatic, man. Sorry about that.
I do remember what you said. You laughed really hard and looked at me and went, burn!
Awesome.
And Ryan went, oh, that's messed up. Oh, come on. It was fun. Mm-hmm. I'll dream about it.
So we call the good old days.
Stu says it's funny that with as technologically advanced as they are, the collective cubes still haven't got Wi-Fi, and you have to physically jack in with a US Borg cable. US Borg cable. That's pretty good, Stu.
Pretty good.
I like it. The Borg getting defeated. No, wait. I just had this image of the Borg using firewire.
Yeah, the Borg all use firewire. Sorry.
Like, just the most outdated thing I could think of in the moment. The Borg getting defeated with the power of love, like this is a 2006 episode of Doctor Who. Fine. I suppose blowing the cube up like that was enough of an actual substantive tactical solution. I mean, it's not like they had a hope speech like in Supergirl, Stu. Come on.
Yeah. I did like that it was, it wasn't just like a generalized hope thing. It was like he just had to convince his son not to be a part of it,
Yeah.
Which it wasn't about like convincing the Borg to love or anything like that. It was just about like convincing Jack that he didn't want to do this,
Right. It was just a father trying to convince his son to stop hanging out with his dick friends. And if Jack had been a little younger, Picard may have lost.
Yeah, for sure.
Stu says, I must also point out that Picard credits Jack's existence as making him realize he doesn't need to be alone, despite the fact he started a new romantic relationship last season with a character who doesn't appear or get mentioned in this finale at all.
Mm-hmm.
She's busy. She was at a place doing a thing.
Yeah.
Whatever it said in the first episode, I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
Since we see them having to actually walking onto the bridge rather than beaming directly there, my headcanon is they rematerialized in Transporter Room 3 with O'Brien waiting for them.
No.
Oh, no.
No, but they did have one of those, they talked about how they had the little, the drones functioning all throughout the crew. So they did have a drone with like a bad red wig, curly-headed red wig on it. It's standing in Transporter Room 3.
And it's just going, beep, beep, beep. I love my wife, Julian. Beep, 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 beep. I love my wife. Beep, 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 beep. Bloody Cardies. Beep, beep, beep. Oh yeah, the changelings. They did kind of become an afterthought after Vadic's death, didn't they? Also, why did they keep so many people they impersonated alive? Well, you got to pump them for information,
Yeah.
Like, I've got a big peer review coming up. Mm-hmm. How have you been doing with the transporters? Like, all right, Ensign. What do you think he needs? What do you think are your weaknesses? Where do you think you need to improve?
Yeah.
Bonus realization. Tuvok, by this point in the averted future timeline, would have been suffering dementia from a neurological condition. But because he got back to Earth in time, he was able to be cured with a mind meld with a family member.
Mm-hmm.
Huzzah!
Yeah.
I'd forgotten all about that.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm so glad it was Shaw doing Seven's review, and it not being used as a contrived way to have a Janeway cameo. All caps, boo! I knew it was coming, but fucking hell, Jack didn't need to join Starfleet. Stu continues, I always found it weird Riker didn't get to be captain of the Enterprise in an ongoing fashion, and now he does, but only retroactively with the renaming. Though really, they need to rethink the Starfleet is so set in their ways thing when they're constantly giving command of the flagship to Mavericks. And even ones who just got promoted to captain in Seven's case.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the great thing that I think Starfleet recognizes. Like, Starfleet needs to be set in their ways and bureaucratic. It's one of the great things about the movies. It's one of those things that you love about MASH. But they appreciate the Mavericks because the Mavericks can get things done that they technically can't because of political reasons. So, I don't know. I'm down with it.
Yeah. Sometimes you need someone who can make a decision in the field that maybe the bureaucracy wouldn't make.
Of course, they did, make Picard captain of the Enterprise D in Next Gen. And he was very by the book.
And he'd been the captain of the Stargazer before that as well.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Then you got, like, Sisko, who was, like, not even a captain for half the show. Like, it's mostly just Kirk, really, that you're talking about there, right?
I mean...
That, like, young captain without as much experience who's a Maverick. Yeah. The others aren't really.
Yeah. I mean, I can't think of anybody else, really.
I mean, and that's the thing is, like, I think that's what's neat about Jack is he's the son of Picard, but he's been raised as this sort of, like, well, I don't know, like, medicine-running, caring, like, empathetic dude that's very, very different from Picard in a lot of ways, but he has a lot of the Picard... I don't know. He has Picard traits, but but so many of them are Crusher traits, and so many of them are like him being raised like a smuggler, and it's just like I don't know. That to me puts him a little more closer to Kirk and that old style of captain. And so one day when he becomes captain, it'll be interesting to see him like step into that role with that sort of mix of Picard and Kirk traits or whatever.
Yeah, and actually just looking at Spaliers and seeing how he worked, I almost kind of wish he'd been playing Kirk in Strange New Worlds.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think he would have. He'd been so good. Anyway, Stu says, does every show need to do the "What's your captain" catchphrase scene now? Even Strange New Worlds is doing it with Spock per the teaser trailer for season 3. I know. We talked about that.
Yeah, we did.
But Stu didn't know that when he wrote this, like. Back in 1873. He just got finished doing his butter churn and decided, I'll write the boys a message. Stu says getting their money's worth out of that 10 Forward set, I see. Every week.
They're either on any set they need that's not the ship is that 10 Forward set.
Would have been nice for Data to even mention his still living daughter, Soji. You're also concerned with law being acknowledged, but this is a more notable omission, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess this Data does have the well, see, I don't know, because this Data doesn't have the memories of the Data who sat in the thing for 30 years, though, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, they weren't very clear, because it's pieces of the different versions of the soon-type androids, so we don't really know what pieces, so it's possible this Data doesn't even know Soji exists yet.
But I bet Soji will show up in Legacy!
Yeah, she will. Would have been really neat, though, if... Data had been talking about Legacy or like how he not the show but the concept.
He just like he stops steering the ship through the Borg cube and then like the Obi-Wan thing plays, of course. Yeah, he's like, I saw a movie, and then he looks directly at the camera and it says, go sign the Star Trek Legacy petition.
Yeah.
It just becomes like...
If you like good content like Star Wars, go sign.
You know what it reminded me of is on Arrested Development when they're basically using the amount of the Bluth condos or houses or whatever as a metaphor for how many episodes they have. in season 3, like Michael is like, all right, well, we've been cut down from 18 to 13.
Yeah.
And they have this whole thing, and then Ron Howard's voiceover just comes in and goes, please watch our show.
So good.
All right, Stu says, I guess they might still address Q's death. I mean, they kind of did. He said, you're dead. And he's like, you're linear.
Yeah.
This is before that happens. Anyway, despite my misgivings about the last episode, it was a great finale overall. Now please let that be the definitive defeat of the Borg. Some contrivedness to things, and I could do without the character shilling of emphasizing at the end that Jack is super important, which is mainly down to his family, if we're honest. Also, can the Q try and test the Ferengi for a change or something? Also, I know he's retired from acting, but imagine if it was Keegan Delancey who'd shown up at the end to make Q's messing with Picard's a generational thing. Take care, Stu. Thank you, Stu. That was a lot.
Yeah, Stu always rates us in a good chunk of email. I like it.
He does.
Always entertaining.
I don't mind it. But, it was a chunk.
Indeed.
I think it could be published in a 395-page volume. A tome.
It's not a tome. Come on.
Most of it all caps. Yelling at me about phasers.
Phasers are my favorite part. All right, well.
Oh, no, that was fantastic.
That was great. Well, you guys, I guess that's about all for this episode. What do you think?
I like how you've ascertained that I saved Stu for last.
Yeah, you normally do, but also,
I
was thinking, even if he's not last, we're over an hour, and I'm very tired.
That's true.
And I've still got to edit an MCU cast tonight. So, I'm going to go do that. And, this will show up in a couple days on the feed. I don't know why I'm saying that to you guys, because by the time you're hearing it, it already has shown up. But you think so linearly.
Right. By the way, I do save Stu for last. I like to say it's because we save the best for last, but really I think it's because I think if we play him earlier, he'll hear his own thing and then he'll just shut the show off and it'll hurt our our playback. Our viewer retention will go down because Stu will be like, oh, well, they played me first, so.
Why do you think that of Stu and not any of the other listeners that write in?
Stu has a quality. I like to give Stu a hard time. That's really all it is.
I know. All right. Well, thanks, guys, for listening. We'll be back in a couple of days with more Star Trek. A couple of weeks, probably. When's the next thing drop?
I will try to have the motion picture review with Christiana.
Oh, yeah. That'd be great. That'd be awesome.
I will try to have that up next week.
What's next, though? Strange New Worlds is next, right?
Strange New Worlds.
Coming out next month?
In June. Yeah.
In June. Okay. Yeah, we're getting close. We may drop something in between there, especially if you guys write in some feedback. But otherwise, I'll talk to you guys in June. Jolan True.
I've got some stuff with Christy lined up and some other stuff that may come through. So, live long and prosper.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.